so assures no freeze on salary adjustment. President Akufo-Addo assures. Then the president is talking again. He says, help rebuild our public finances and economy. Help rebuild our public finances and economy. NDC. They have sacked Alote Jacobs. And this morning, I'm also learning that Atubiga has been suspended. You know Atubiga, right? My lord, I am an electrician. He's been suspended. He's been suspended. Kroll, PDS, Ejapa, others. We have information. Kroll, PDS, Ejapa, others await Ken Oforiatta at Vetten. And if we have the time, no, in fact, not necessarily time, we should, as a matter of policy, discuss this issue. Government will permanently end perennial Accra floods. Honorable Francis Asenso Boachi. Bansoma Asenso Boachi. You know him, right? So he says that they're going to end the perennial flooding in Accra. We would find out whether that is feasible. I'm excited to have in the studios with me three of my very good friends and allies who are here to kill the topics for us. Honorable Dr. Hassan Rashid Purple. Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, my brother.
You know why I pronounce your name like no. Like a ring announcer? Because you are the champ.
Oh.
You know why they say the undefeated world heavyweight champion of the world.
Royal.
Yeah, Royal, of course.
Yeah.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, my brother.
How is Wa Central?
Wa Central.
My Wala people.
They are great people. They are happy. I think that it's a great place. I'm looking forward to going back very soon.
In fact, if you don't take me and this man.
Now let's plan it. Our next trip, I will inform you. My next trip, I'm informing you. Prepare yourself.
Yes.
You go for 2 days and back.
Thank you. Thank you. So the crew Ishmael, Wa Central.
You are going to spend at least 2 hours on home radio.
Thank you. Oh yes. I'm going to actually hold the morning show there.
That's fine.
That would be absolutely brilliant. Right. So yeah, I'm coming. I'm coming to Wa Central. Yeah. Don't try.
Is it first person singular or first person plural? Are you coming or we are coming?
No, you are coming.
We are coming together. We are going together.
Yeah.
What? Coming to Wa?
Yes.
You know, there's a movie called Coming to America. This is Coming to Wa.
Yes.
Anyway, so Dr. Kweku Maroto, good morning to you.
Good morning.
I trust you're well.
By God's grace.
People love you.
They
say you are stubborn. They say you are unbreakable.
Chairman. You know, I love them as well, you know.
Yeah, so they said you are the reigning, the defending, morning show champion of the world. Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning.
And Dr. Abubakar Muhammad Marzu. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir.
How are you, sir?
Alhamdulillah.
Hey, Charlie, now I don't know who your stylist is. So I need to begin to feed in your style.
That's right.
I have to feast on it, you know.
Yes, I'm in competition with you.
Anyway, so these are the topics. These are your wonderful panelists. We zoom straight into action. Let me, for the first time, start with you, Dr. Rashid Purple.
Okay.
The president has been talking, I think it's captured boldly on the front page of the Daily Graphic newspaper. It says no freeze on salary adjustment. If I may respectfully read a little bit of the story. President Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo has allayed the fears of public sector workers that the government will freeze their salary increase. Addressing the 11th Quadrennial Delegates Congress of the Trades Union Congress at Abankro in Ejoso Municipality yesterday, the president said, "Let me reiterate, the salary increments for public sector workers have not been frozen." President Akufo-Addo stated this in response to a concern raised by the Secretary General of TUC, Dr. Anthony Yauba, that if the government took the advice of the technical advisor to the Ministry of Finance, Dr. Samuel Ninoy Ashong, that there would be no salary increment, it could lead to serious agitations on the labor front. Doc, let me start with you. I mean, yes, on the face of it, makes a lot of sense, but it's a competition between the rhetoric and the reality. Would it happen that there may be some level of hike, in the salary of the public sector workers, or you think that it's just one of those, political gimmicks that is always being used to calm nerves and calm tempers and just to get things going? Doc, please.
Well, thank you very much, and good morning to West Central. I hope everybody is doing well. Let me start by reminding all of us of what Dr. Bawumia said during the NDC era. He said workers are suffering, teachers are suffering, nurses are suffering, everybody is suffering. And that when they come, they will lift them up and change their circumstances. Today, they have come. We haven't seen the change. The people are complaining and they still say, tighten your belt, and that things are not normal. So what do we do? In the midst of increases in taxes, since they came from the beginning, they have every year increased the fuel prices.
Yep.
They have increased prices of other utility services. Things are becoming difficult. The workers must pay. They pay for their rent, they pay for their utilities, and yet there's no increase in payments of salary. So the differentials are showing up on them. It's becoming more difficult for them to bear the conditions. Things are becoming difficult. So they complain. And they're asking the president, do what you promise. So now the president is unable to do it. He's telling them to tighten their belts. I heard one of the MPP guys saying that even though there are increases in prices, drivers must maintain the prices, workers must not agitate. So how do you correspond with these two things? Because workers and the totality of the economy, are the same. When you see the worker, he produces the economy. If he doesn't have enough capacity, he can produce the kind of economy we want. So if he is not paid well, his output is going to be bad. So I think that we have to listen to our workers and know exactly what they are talking about and see what we can do to help them. But essentially, also make sure they produce the kind of results we want. I have always felt very bad about most Ghanaian workers, that they go to work, they don't produce the kind of results they need to produce, and then they want to earn a certain amount of salary. Having complained that there is a need for them to have their increase in salary, let us also go to them and tell them, produce the best so that you can earn that much salary. I think that Ghana can be a country as much as you can find in any European country if we change the orientation of the Ghanaian. Because our people go out there and they are the best. They go to the UK, they are the best. They go to the US, they are the best. They come to Ghana, they are the worst. Why are we so? So I just think that Nana should listen to them, should respond to them, should try to correspond the present challenges we are facing to the present reality of the need for increase in salary, because workers have families, they have children, they have everything to deal with, and so they cannot be left just like that. There's a need for them to be listened to. Nana is saying that they should help rebuild the economy, which is what we have been doing, or public finances. This is what we have been doing all the time. The workers have been helping to do all that. They are asking for their correspondence of everything they are putting on. So to remind them about what they should be doing is just to say that you want to postpone the time. So I want to encourage your workers to go through the process, do everything that is possible for you to do, including demonstration if you think it's worth it. but stay within the confines of the law.
The fear for many, Dr. Rashid Peopo, is that yes, this may well be a good intention, you know, just to, like the paper appropriately captioned it, allay the fears of Ghanaians in respect of the fact that there was, you know, this suggestion that the increment in the prices of commodities will not correspond to the increment of salary, etc. So perhaps this was just to allay the fears of Ghana. But in reality, that's why I want us to look at the reality. Now, if I'm talking about the reality, I want us to look at what has been said, juxtapose same with the current economic labyrinth that we are in, and see if what the president said, right, should be taken with a pinch of salt, or is one that can be executed. I don't know if I'm making sense to you.
Yeah.
Yes, that's...
You see, one of the ways by which to improve an economy is to look at the labor force. If Obama, in those days, wanted to spring up the American economy to reach the heights it was in, the best way for him was to inject capital into the Ghanaian economy, into the American economy, by helping to stimulate the private sector. General Motors, the housing industry, stimulated them, got them to employ people, paid them well, and the economy began to rise. So the challenge we have in Ghana is that we don't have the focus on the economy. We have the focus on the finances. We want to make sure budget is the same, there's inflation has something. We want to make sure the current rate, you know, the policy rate is some way that can be admirable. We want to make sure this is that, GDP. You know, these things don't just work. They work with an increase in investment at a local level. Peculiar nationalistic businesses rising out of the country and demonstrating commitment. You know, so if those businesses don't rise, pick up Ghanaians, employ them, make them happy, get them to produce, then you still have a small sector of national service, public service workers agitating for salaries. They are less than 1 million, you know, agitating for salary, and for the rest of the 30 million people contributing to pay them. That's the kind of economy we have. So I think that for us to have a correspondence of the kind of economy we have with the kind of workers we have, we need to have a longer plan of facilitating the process and getting things done in a more efficient, effective manner. So that whilst you increase salary, you expect more. But you don't expect increased salary and expect less or the same. But essentially, I am with the workers. I think that things are becoming more difficult. The workers must be given the opportunity to rise and to be able to produce. And with the present circumstance, I think that they are now behind the circumstances. They are behind time, you know, with the kinds of salaries they get. I'm a member of parliament, and I know what it means when I had to receive the same salary for 4 years, no increase in salary, and we just kept on. I mean, we didn't want to complain, but it was so bad in the last 4 years. It was so bad, you know.
Right. Granted, Dr. Kokumoto, let me come to you. We've listened to Dr. Rashid Peopo,
all right,
and he seems to be swinging on the balance, you know, in one breath, finding comfort with the workers, in another breath also chastising them, you know, positively, really. We're chastising them, encouraging them to put in work, right? Because, I mean, input necessarily must reflect output. But from where you sit, right, knowing what you know in terms of the finances, in terms of the economy, do you think that it is important at this material moment to increase the salary the salaries of workers, primarily owing to the fact that we have increased the prices of utilities, right? Must that necessarily correspond to the increment in the salaries of workers? Or you think that there's more to that? Perhaps we need to look at adjusting the economy in totality and finding an avenue of ensuring that the fiscal space is well governed and tightened, so that we will not have, leakages in the system that will, in the long run, come back to hurt us again.
All right, thank you, Kwame. Let me say good morning to you. Let me greet your viewers and also take this opportunity to wish you a happy belated birthday. In fact, it's unfortunate I don't know what happened to me, but yesterday was a very busy day. Yes, okay. Honorable, that is true. Yeah. In fact, maybe get to the tail end of the show. You deserve it. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to Kwame. Happy birthday to you. In fact, may God bless you now. May God bless you now. May God bless you now. May God bless you now.
Thank you very much.
It reminds me of the days in school.
Don't worry, Katangaho. What about your Casper, right?
No, I was in Ogwa.
Oh, you are not B. You are not in Casper. Yes, but
I think we are where we are today because of some of the difficulties we find in our fiscal space, especially we are talking about revenue shortages. This issue of austerity measures and all that is because we have a very huge budget deficit of 41 billion, and the issue is how do we finance it. But you see, Kwame, sometimes when I listen to Honorable, I wonder if Honorable is very, very partisan. He says it as it is. That is why I always love listening to him. He doesn't seem to be those political, activists who always look into one, bottle and then speak to that bottle. Kwame, you see, I mentioned on your platform that the president's posture during the State of Nation address, especially when we all know that we find our economy in some level of crisis, and then the very program from the president has to do with economic recovery. So I expected the president's posture to be more appealing on that day. That yes, indeed, as Ghanaians, we need to now sacrifice, give in and then understand the situation, and probably will have to appreciate the effort of the government to reorganize and restructure the economy. But once again, the president came out with some promises. And one of them I flagged out was the introduction of professional allowances.
Allowances, yeah.
In the midst of crisis, and as usual, what do you expect from workers? We know very well that things are not so rosy. There are several revenue shortfalls. So at this point in time, I expected the president to be more appealing than continue promising workers. It is not by accident that, you see, mere accident that today we find our economy in crisis. And I always mention that it is not only Ghana. It's a global phenomenon. Every country is struggling with its revenue targets because of COVID-19. And I am happy we've come to understand that COVID has caused serious mayhem to economies, most global economies. China is an outlier because they are making strides towards quick, whilst we are talking about economic recovery, they are talking about economic enhancement. They are doing more than what others are doing. Now let's come and look at the issues. I do not think that, you know, I'm a realist, okay? The statement by that technical man, I think Mr. Ninoy, this is a technical man. He spoke to the issues, he spoke to figures, and was appealing to workers. And that was what I was expecting the president to tell workers. That look, giving, you know, technocrats, they speak to the figures, data. So you don't expect them to speak like the normal politicians. Looking at what we have today, on the face of the figures we have, workers should not expect that significant increase in salary. He did not say there will be no increase in salary. They should not expect significant increase in their respective salaries. And that is the reality. I mean, there's no two ways about that. Else, workers should rather expect government to go and borrow to come and pay them. At a critical moment that we find ourselves in this country. Now, I know some political activists twisted the whole thing to make it look like, he didn't say there'll be no salary increment. He said significant, which means you may not get what you want, given the data at hand. Now, how do we address this? And I'm very happy that the president once again has assured the workers' union that yes, indeed, the government is trying to see how best those things will be addressed, but he reiterated the facts presented by Mr. Ninoy. Now, Kwame, there's the reality. I'll be surprised if the government today will significantly increase the salary of workers. I'll benefit because I am a public servant. I'll benefit. But looking at the figures, I wouldn't expect government to go and borrow and pay salaries. But there are areas that the government should work on. So I'm very happy that the president has mentioned that Ghanaians should help rebuild our public finances and the economy. That is very, very true. We need to help. We all have to come on board. But you see, the president has been given a mandate to manage and govern this country, which even goes beyond political governance. But the main economy has been entrusted to the president. So the issues of revenue is what we are talking about here. In the event we had excess revenue, then the economy will not be in crisis. Are you okay? The main problem is revenue shortage, the revenue gap, revenue expenditure gap. So huge, 1 billion. Where are we getting it from? Now, we have players like GRA. What are they doing to ensure that all taxable Ghanaians are taxed? You know, we live in a country where, yes, indeed, it's quite difficult though, but it is time we speak to the issues that some public institutions, agencies, are not very effective when it comes to their rules. What creative measures has GRA put in place to ensure that the tax bracket that we're always talking about should be widened, but not increase increase in tax rates? You know, I am, when it comes
what's
to
the difference? So for the purpose of education,
okay,
because even me, I don't understand.
Okay, you open so for instance, there are each and every one of us here generates revenue. It's not true. So we are supposed to pay tax on it. But the tax bracket captures only the 4 of us, leaving out the remaining staff around. So it means that when we expand the tax bracket, it means everyone in this room, there are 4 other people in this room. They'll be added to the tax revenue.
The bracket.
That's what it says, expand the tax bracket. There are people who are not paying tax, but they're supposed to pay tax. Now, you see, we live in a country where we have to look at the capacity of the people who have been entrusted to generate this revenue. Kwame, you bear with me now. Physical shops are being extinguished from our day-to-day operations. When I say physical shops, today you can own this what do we call it? This buy and sell business. Buy and sell. Provision shop. Retail shop. You don't need a physical existence.
Oh yeah, online.
All you need, in fact, you can create a shop in your bedroom. In the morning, you take pictures of whatever you have in stores,
and put
it on your status. In fact, people will call you and make deliveries. For you to make deliveries,
you don't pay taxes.
You don't pay anything. In fact, you don't pay anything.
People are selling houses there. People are selling cars there. Social media, everything is on there. I follow you. Yeah.
What is GRA doing about this? There's, Kwame, you see, sometimes there's this school of thought that what is academia doing for the corporate world? There are several researches. Sometimes we do it willingly. But you know, in the Western world, organizations will identify a gap and look out for researchers and pay them to conduct research for them.
Yes.
How many times have GRE identified this gap and consulted, and sometimes we even approach them with the gaps we have identified? How many times, what effort have they made? What is their total budget allocation to research and development? These are things you cannot achieve in a day. So what we normally, if the president says we should all come on board to rebuild our public finances as well as the economy as a whole, then I think the GRA, which is the main agency responsible for mobilizing revenue for this country, should sit up. Because there are several revenue generation gaps that they have to address, they have to fill. Now, let's trickle down. I want to move away from GRA and now look at some specific agencies. Like the money the government always invests in the energy sector. Then we have ECG, which is the management system within the structure.
Right.
Responsible for collection of the revenue. Okay. They are responsible for collecting the revenue that we use whenever we consume energy. Have they put up all the structures to capture all those who are consuming energy? Kwame, it's not a rhetorical question, but the answer is no.
Right.
We have people in this country who are consuming energy, but they are not paying anything.
Nothing.
But myself and you, we are so exposed that the minute amount of energy we consume, we pay for it.
Absolutely.
And you know the painful thing? When I observed this, I was brought up in Newtown. And my house by then was wall-less. There was no wall. So a ECG meter, examiner could enter the house anytime. So on monthly basis, my father would pay. It was a budget set aside. Now you move into the area where they can even pay.
It's walled.
It's walled.
There are dogs.
There are dogs.
Security guards.
Guards. I like that.
The walls are very long, right?
Thank you.
Look into the house.
Thank you. And these are the people who are not even paying. The poor are paying for them. It is painful. We need to talk about it. And ECG must come out. For me, I always believe in solving problems, filling gaps. We have been talking about this. Those who can pay are not paying. Those who cannot pay are being compelled to pay. That's a painful aspect of our society. It has been there for some time, and we have been talking about it. So you see, all these agencies must now come out with some creativity, innovation. Now, Kwame, when Honorable was speaking, I think there was this caveat he introduced in his conversation that irrespective of the demand, but it is fair. I mean, he mentioned it was fair that the staff or workers need to be compensated. However, the attitude of workers, some, not all, is a major concern to the development of this country. Kwame, there are several workers, some of the workers around there, they don't do anything. In fact, they only withdraw their salaries. I was shocked. I was even shocked to know that in the municipal and district assemblies, there are sanitation officers who withdraw salary every month. So I asked, what do they do? There are revenue generating officers who are supposed to move into houses, identify houses that are supposed to pay property rates. I have lived around ARS for the past 6 years. Nobody has approached me. I have even called the staff. So you people, don't you want revenue? In fact, I called a student of mine. Look, these are things. Okay, can I come and discuss something with the municipal assembly? I want to. You see, those are the major issues. Ghana should not be borrowing so much. The people we borrow from,
This is how they make their money.
Chairman, you cannot live in the US
And no pay tax.
and avoid tax payment. You can't. The system will get hold of you, and the system will deal with you. In fact, they have gotten to a stage where citizens will go to the revenue agencies and ask, "Am I owing?" You know this, what do you call it? Traffic offenses.
Oh yeah.
When you park your car, you understand.
Yeah.
Sometimes there could be some fine which will come in the form of tickets, and if you don't take it, and they don't want to put it, on your screen, and if the wind blows it away, you may not know. So occasionally you call and ask, please, have I been fined? You just check. Some of them you check. There's an app you can check whether you've been fined. Then you go and pay, because sometimes the wind will blow it away. This is where they have gotten to. We have officers who are in charge, responsible to generate revenue. What are they doing? The DCs, the MCs. Now the question we are going to
They
look
are all
at.
relying on government for survival.
And you see, that is the lazy approach.
But nobody's paying government.
You see, the lazy approach. It comes back to the caliber of people we appoint as MCs and DCs, my brother. They sit on gold and expect gold from the government. Look, sometimes I try to. I just can't fathom with the way and manner some of these MCs and DCs operate. That they rely solely on government to transfer their district common fund to their various assemblies before they start constructing roads. How many of them have internally generated funds to initiate road construction in their various respective areas? There are IGFs within. You see, that's why I said one of the successful government agencies in Ghana are the universities. Honorable could attest to the fact that we run universities with IGF. Now, government is not bothered.
Internally generated funds.
Oh, sorry.
So
Yeah.
that
We generate funds within. Now, government doesn't bother itself undertaking physical infrastructure development on university campuses. They don't. Now, what government does often than not is to pay salaries. That is the current expenditure that they incur on universities now. But most of the universities today are into internally generated funding. They generate all these funds and to develop their various respective campuses.
Yeah.
Go to University of Education, go to University of Ghana. In fact, my own university, UPSA. Because often they're not
the best university in Africa. K University.
Oh, I'm telling you. You see, maybe you don't know. You are not so current with contemporary grading and ranking of universities. I'm telling you, UPS when it comes to business, I know, because we are so limited in the program. When it comes to business in the country, Africa today,
is your school.
Proceed. Thank you.
What's the name of the private school?
Is that Ashasi?
Ashasi.
That's what I said. You see, when it comes
so
to
unique.
business,
Yeah.
it's so unique. They are in IT.
No, Ashashi,
They are in IT.
IT and liberal arts.
Yeah, IT. But business in this country,
technical.
business in this country, Chairman.
No problem.
UPSA.
So it's University of Cape Coast.
But you in your analysis, you made mention of something which I think you need to reiterate before I come to Dr. Maros, because I think I'm spending a lot of time with you. Okay. You spoke about the fact that the universities, for instance, are able to internally generate funds to support themselves and to make sure that they embark on infrastructural development within those universities. Yeah. I mean, this is a very highly regulated, system of operation, which ensures that, every tax that is generated is accounted for. Mm-hmm. Now, you made mention of, for instance, the MMDCs, and they still take taxes and things like that from the people, right? Mm-hmm. But do we have proper accountability of same? Mm-hmm. The caliber of people that we even send to these MMDCs and how do they call them? MMDCs, right? Yeah, MMDCs. To even head those parastatals. Mm-hmm. Are they qualified to be there? Do they have the wherewithal to even think outside the box?
Thank you.
And generate revenue? Because I've always maintained
thank you.
that government is like a company.
Thank you.
If they put you in charge of a district, you are the branch manager of that. And so we must...
CEO
of a whole district. Absolutely. So we must give you target. Mm-hmm. Is it the case that government gives them targets and they are unable to meet the targets, or government just simply appoints them for political expediency? We need to identify these things, because that is what will precipitate the agenda of development within those communities. Sure. If they feel that there's a certain level of responsibility or accountability that in a final analysis must be drawn from them, then we can get to the point that you are talking about.
Thank you. So you see, Kwame, let me be fair to them. There are some of the taxes they collect, it's GRA has that control when it comes to some specific taxes within those jurisdictions. So if there's a company that operates in Medina, for instance, his taxes are paid to GRA. But there are some other levies that they pay. But you see, these DCs and MCs over-concentrate on market women.
That's what I was going to say.
The market, the catchment areas where people...
Where it's easy. It's easy.
I mean, go in there and collect. I mean, always round them and chase them and be collecting those ones, the easy ones. Mm. There are the very significant ones outside the market, which they are not looking at. But you made mention of something. Capacity of the DCs and MCs. I think, Honorable, it is time the NDC and MPP accept and admit the fact that a district, a CEO of a district, or a CEO of a municipal assembly must be qualified, experienced, tried and tested, not a political activist, not a partisan person who has never managed a company before.
Yes.
In fact, you see...
You agree with that, right?
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, Chairman.
And the person, at least if you want him to belong to your party, he should belong to you. But he should...
No problem. Chairman, I don't have any problem. I mean, we are talking about somebody representing the president. So, obviously, you need somebody who believes in the vision of the president.
But so we don't also have the wherewithal to execute.
You should have the capacity to manage a whole district. You are representing the president within that catchment area. And sometimes when you speak to some of them, you could easily, within seconds,
they are bereft of ideas.
I mean, identify. You could conclude on the caliber of person you are talking to.
Okay.
So bad. So you see, we've gotten to a stage that we have to stop lamenting, but tell these governors, actors that look, your DCs are your major agencies responsible for development in localities.
Right.
So appoint qualified people who have vision, who knows have the capacity to develop that locality you are entrusting to them.
Very well.
But not a mere party follower, like a normal grassroots you are appointing there just to take care of a political
very
interest.
detailed explanation in respect of this subject matter. I'm happy about that. But I think that we should also throw this caution out there. I think the misconception here is that people perceive members of parliament as the ones who are supposed to undertake some of these projects within those constituencies and the communities. And therefore, oftentimes, we take our eyes off the people who are supposed to do the job.
That's true.
You know, and
That's
then
true.
we focus our lenses on the members of parliament. And I think that is why we are derailing in terms of development within our communities. Anyway, Dr. Maluk, if you listen closely to Dr. Rashid Pepo and Dr. Kweku Mawotor, there's that agreement, you know, in respect of the fact that we are not in normal times. Yes, albeit that, you know, the public sector workers are supposed to get some benefit. We must also pull that pari passu with the current quagmire that we are in. And we don't have to make demands which cannot be met, right? But if I listen closely to what Dr. Kweku Mawotor stated in terms of the economic outlook of this nation, he looked at the revenue shortages and the fact that in all the conversations we're going to have, we must make sure that the underlying subject matter is the revenue shortfalls. And the revenue shortfalls spring from the budget deficit. And then, in my estimation, there's a balance between the budget deficit and financing. Now, to strike that balance out, we needed to introduce some taxes. And then those taxes that have been introduced as we speak now have been described as burdensome to the taxpayer, but a relief to government. And if you further come down, we are looking at, for instance, what he stated, the core mandate of, for instance, Ghana Revenue Authority to broaden the tax net to cover so many other people so that we'll be able to generate a lot of revenue to close at least the budget deficit that we have, in order that we'll be able to survive and stay afloat. Then also he spoke about, yes, the revenue mobilization and things like that, how to mobilize revenue instead of always generating. You know, how do we mobilize revenues internally, the IGF that he spoke about. So, you know, I'm just trying to give you an overview so that it would also guide the analysis that you're going to make for us this morning. Sir, please.
Right. Good morning to the cherished viewers of ours, and thanks for the opportunity. Kwame, before I proceed, let me say that you are a public figure, and therefore every day is your birthday.
Thank you.
I once again wish you a happy birthday. May Allah grant you good health.
Thank you. Thank you.
And prosperity. Good. Let me admit that I am neither an economist nor a labor expert.
So text me so I can get your number.
Yes.
Okay, I'll call back.
Yes, I am saying that I am neither an economist nor a labor expert. And therefore, my submission will be based on common sense. Of course, I'm a student of common sense.
You and Mr. Fred belong to the same
I'm
class.
a student of common sense. And for that reason, my submission this morning on this issue will be commonsensical, ordinary, and observational. And my submission also seeks to find answers to the following questions. 1, intentionality. Is the intention of government genuine in this exercise? 2, feasibility. If government has a genuine intention, which I think is the case, is it feasible? 3, meaningfulness. And if it is feasible, if in terms of application it becomes realistic, will it be meaningful to the economic needs of the people? Let's look at the intention. Without any iota of reason to doubt the sincerity of government, I do say, with all honesty, that the intention is genuine. So we don't have any problem with the because it's patriotic. It's good to award workers. It's good to recognize the performance of workers. But feasibility. Is it feasible? It will be feasible based on the economic circumstances. And we all know that we are not in normal times. Even powerful economies have been ravaged by COVID. We do understand that. Then again, we should also look at it from the reality of scaling up the productivity. Is the current rate of productivity ready to justify any salary adjustment? Because if we have we look at incompatibility between productivity and salary adjustment, definitely we are going to have problems. We may pronounce the salary adjustments, and those increases will be in arrears till that kingdom come. It's possible. Because you cannot, and I'm saying I'm a student of common sense. I'm not an economist, but I know very well that if you do not have a meaningful rate of productivity, you cannot generate meaningful revenue to ensure meaningful salary adjustment. That one is ordinary knowledge. So is it the case? Is the public sector performing well? Is the private industry performing well? Is the academia performing well? Any other sector of that pushes the economy, is it performing well? These are the questions we should be looking at. And to just get up and announce any salary adjustment without convincing Ghanaians that salary adjustment will be conducted within the confines and rationality of scaling up productivity, that also begs for questions. We need to understand. And then after this, let's move to, even if it is real, if it is feasible, at the end of the day, taking into consideration the harsh economic conditions in this country, will it be meaningful? If you give me 1,000 Ghana cedis, and then you come to tell me that you are increasing 1,000 Ghana cedis to 1,500 Ghana cedis. Now, it is welcome news, good news. But then you increase my transportation from 200 Ghana cedis to 500 Ghana cedis. My feeding from 200 Ghana cedis to 600 Ghana cedis, for instance. My accommodation from 200 Ghana cedis to 400 Ghana cedis. Will the adjustment be meaningful? At the end of the day, it will not be meaningful. So if we want a meaningful adjustment of salaries, then of course, the adjustment itself should not be done in isolation. It should be in relation to other relevant sectors of the economy and of the well-being of the Ghanaian. Accommodation, feeding, transportation, energy, industrialization. These are the benchmarks that should dictate a meaningful salary adjustment. I'm saying no one should be deceived into thinking that I am an economist. I'm not. I'm a student of common sense. And I think this should be known to everybody. Kwame, just look at the scenario. From one perspective, we complain that the economy is not doing well. And we have a finance expert here who has done it well. I mean, presented a very well
thesis.
Yes, thesis this morning. Yeah. He agrees with me. I agree. I think he will agree with me. I'm building on his point that the economy is in crisis. In fact, I use the word crisis. Is in crisis. So if the economy is in crisis, how does that economy in crisis ensure meaningful salary adjustment? Meaningful. If you give, just imagine how those who bought Trotro can complain if the fares are adjusted in an upward manner. The fuel those who use their own cars and are government workers, if the fuel, the price of fuel is increased, how meaningful is their salary increment? Definitely. I mean, we will have problems there. So all I am saying is that we should try as much as possible, not just to mention, not just to even do it in a manner that will not be meaningful. I am appealing to government to ensure that it is done in a manner that is very meaningful.
Right.
Today, let me continue. Right. I think I have enough time. I'm not an economist, but I'm a student of common sense. And I will speak with common sense.
Please.
Yes, let me continue. You see, if you look at the ways, because we can't complain, we need to also come out with ways, I mean, to suggest solutions. I am, from my common sense point of view, I am suggesting that for the government to convince Ghanaians that the adjustment will be meaningful, it must widen the tax network. And then if the tax, how do we widen the tax network? Dr. Kwekuma Mato has spoken about people who are in serious businesses, who are in lucrative businesses, but are not taxed because they are operating in the cyberspace. Let our taxation model capture those people in the cyberspace. I am proposing that the cyberspace should be readjusted. There must be mechanisms to ensure that those people operating in the cyberspace are well taxed. And this morning, permit me to salute Dr. Bawumia for his digitization drive. In fact, if we are able to utilize the digitization agenda that he has brought, definitely it will enhance the level of taxation, meaningful living and welfare of Ghanaians. That's number one. Number two, let us also ensure discipline in the public sector. Discipline.
I agree with you.
Discipline. Look, at all times, you and I have questions about some politicians. And in this country, once corruption as a word is mentioned, it is the politician that comes to mind. That is unfair to the politician. I know, yes, some of them are corrupt. It's unfair. It's very unfair. If you consider the massive level of corruption in the public sector, I'm telling you, you never blame a politician. I'm serious.
I agree with you.
Yes.
I agree with you.
It is an act of corruption to refuse to work within a specific time assigned to you.
It's corruption.
Yes, it's corruption of the highest order. Let me use medical stores in Tamale as an example.
Yeah.
Here is an officer in the finance department who is supposed to chase checks. He uses his own car to go for the checks. He uses his own fuel. He uses everything to do everything. He is not remunerated. No one cares about him. Here is a lady close to the manager or whoever is in position who does not even come to office and who has been given an opportunity to go for further studies. Further study with payment, study leave on pay. You understand that? For 2 years, it took Iyoko to establish that and to order the girl and the management to cough up the money. Can you imagine this? Is this not corruption? And we do not have mechanisms in place to check those things. So once it is about the public service, the amount of the level of adjustment must correspond to the level of competency, the level of productivity. So if we do not check those things, we will continue to blame the politician and we will continue to chase the problem, and we will never find the solution. Then come to any other sector of the economy and you can record massive corruption from the public service. Let's go to the politics once again, the political arena.
Right.
This country should be reconfigured in terms of thinking, in terms of politics, industry relationship. Why should the minister be more powerful than the chief executive? Or the minister, why should the minister be more powerful than the chief director? Why? That should not be the case. He controls the policy. But the implementer, when it comes to the control, fine. At that level, that is good. Supervisory. Right? Honorable, I hope you have understood me. At the supervisory role, he should be powerful. But when it comes to implementation, the chief director should be powerful. That's what I'm saying. That is what I'm saying. And you and I, I mean, with few exceptions, like you and we have almost, in fact, in most of the ministries, it is the minister who controls, who manages, who directs, who does everything. And even the chief director will have to succumb to the whims and caprices of the minister. True. That is the situation we have.
True.
So let the politicians know their boundaries. Let the civil servants, the experts, know their boundaries. And the profligacy in this country. In fact, once again, let me be fair. You know, when you hit, then you hit there. And then when you blame the politician, you have to be sympathetic to them too. You know, when we talk of the profligacy, I'm telling you, it's not always the politician who is involved in the profligacy.
Right.
The civil servants themselves. Sometimes, but I have been reliably informed that some of the chief directors coach the ministers. I'm telling you, to dupe the state.
Yeah.
Some of the chief directors, and I hope Honorable may agree with me, that they receive coaching. Some of your colleagues receive coaching from disgruntled directors, wayward directors, chief directors. So when we have that evil collaboration between the director and the minister, the economy cannot do well. You can come and propound all the economic theories.
Yeah.
Those of us observing the trend from the perspective of common sense will not see anything better.
I will call it.
Right? So, Kwame, this morning, I'm happy that you have heard submissions from a political figure, from a finance guru, and from a man of common sense.
Right. Thank you very much. I think that clearly, all these submissions are beautifully submitted. Now, I think we need to touch on the other ones. But you see, and I will come to you, Dr. Kwaku. But with the grace of his, let me go again to Dr. Rashid Pelpuo. He makes some very salient points about widening the tax net, you know, and whatnot, right? And the fact that people actually do not want to pay taxes. You know, more often than not, most people don't want to pay taxes. My challenge here has got to do with the corresponding development that must flow from the payment of taxes. You know, the fact that people have, over the period, you know, created a certain rigid mental set about the fact that no matter how many years they pay taxes, there's not going to be any corresponding development flowing from the payment of taxes. So people naturally feel that they don't feel the urge to want to go and pay taxes because they think, and most times it's true, that the politicians only dissipate the funds or the revenues that they generate, but they don't see any development. And you have traversed the country, you've seen our roads, you've seen the communities where they don't have potable water, you've seen the fact that on the Temamoto Way we pay toll, but look at the state of the road. You know, so people generally have begun to form that impression from the reality that confronts them, that the taxes are not used for any meaningful things. Yeah.
Yeah, this is what is termed as the ultimate consequence of government mobilizing domestic revenue from its domestic sector. So if the consequences are bad, people don't find it interesting paying taxes, and they even rebel, because paying tax is a very difficult thing. Earning money and giving out the money for the general good. Many people cannot understand that the money you are paying is for the general good, including your own good. They think that it is giving money to somebody or something that you can never get. So if the consequence is good, people want to pay by themselves. Like you go to any of the Caribbean, what do you call it? The Norwegian, the Scandinavian countries. Tax is about, in many cases, 55% of your total income. You earn 100 Ghana cedis, they take 55 cedis and give you 45. But your education is free, transport is free, accommodation is available. So what do you need the money for? Government makes sure they provide everything at a very minimal cost. So you don't go hunting for accommodation or anything. You know, so that's their policy. In the other part of the world, in the United States and and other European countries, the government tells you it is strong. I mean, whether you like it or not, government has demonstrated strength, is capable of getting you, and is put in place systems that can challenge your paying of tax, and that can take the tax from you, even whether you like it or not. But it is incumbent on them, and they make it so that money they are taking will be put to good use, and you see the use yourself.
Absolutely.
If you don't pay, you are in trouble. And if you pay, you see the consequence. And if you chop taxpayers' money, even if it is 1 cedi,
You are dead.
you go to jail.
Yeah.
10 years, 20 years. In Ghana, you take taxpayers' money
And you'll be healed.
and spend it. The people will hail you and make you a king in their church or mosques. So that makes the difference. So whilst in situations where we pay tax and we see the consequence, which is positive, it is good for us. In our particular situation, people are not enthused because it is we see corruption every day happening. I mean, people are building houses with the small salaries they get. When I first moved to, I used to stay in Ashiye. When we moved to that house, it was a 3-bedroom house. In that small house, those years, several years ago, I'm sure it's about some 14 years ago now. In that small house, I used to drive past a very nice store building. In fact, 2 of them before getting to my house those days. And those houses were so magnificent and so nice. One of them belongs to a custom officer. Another belongs to, yes, So you were wondering, how were they even getting the money? And at the time, I was a member of parliament. And I could, with the effort, I put together some resources with my wife. We put up a 3-bedroom house, So you were wondering, how were they able to get that money? So...
Yeah, there are linkages in the system.
And it's all over. It's all over. But it is also genuine that people can commit themselves and build 9 houses if they take time. Because we all can do it. If you take time, you can do it. But if you do it within a space of time within which your salary cannot afford, then there's something definitely wrong. And the people around will hail you for that. In our political campaigns, we are blamed for not having enough money. because they believe that, oh, where you are, you should be able to make money. Where do they expect you to make the money? Because they believe that stealing is logical, acceptable, endorsed. So go in and do it. If you don't do it, they blame you for it. So the mentality of the Ghanaian, we have a challenge with it, and we need to change it. And if we allow it to go the way it's going, it will be a very long time before we can recover and build a system that can be workable and productive, you know, to our own cause. So
Let me introduce the next topic, and then perhaps Dr. Kokumato can.
I was even wondering how we were not going to take this Achimota school,
the Rasta issue.
their refusal to. Anyway, but you can go
we'll
on.
touch on that. But I just want us to also look at this perennial flood, floods in Accra.
Yeah, okay.
But not just in Accra, in most parts of the country, when it rains.
Yeah.
I think, was it in Tamale or so, when I think a certain Ajia had gone to pray, and then she was stuck in traffic, and then the incident happened. I mean, it is happening across the country. Initially, it was just in Accra. And we thought, oh, it's in Accra. We don't, you know. But now it's all over the place. I mean, it's in Cape Coast. It's in everywhere. Tamale, Kumasi. You know, it's everywhere. Now, I want us to have this conversation because of how I believe we have tried to look at. I mean, where we've looked at the issue from, and in addressing that issue, the limitations that we've placed on ourselves, right? And also the focus, the central focus. It's always been Accra. I don't know where the linkages would be. Maybe, for instance, if we dredged somewhere, perhaps it will ease something, and then maybe Accra will not be flooded. I don't know. I don't know what the science would tell us. But what I want to bring to our attention is that Francis Sensu-Boakye, I think Minister for Housing, isn't it, is indicating that government will permanently end perennial Accra floods. He uses the word permanently. Permanently. Now, we have issues relative to improper drainage systems. We have issues relating to building on waterways. We have issues relating to the lack of bins and its attending refuse collection. So these are issues that are in existence, Dr. Kokumato, and I'm coming to you. And somehow, the minister is indicating that we are going to permanently deal with the issue of floods. And they are also limiting that conversation to Accra. And I don't know. Let's hear from you. Yes, sir.
Do you believe that? No. I mean, we listened to Atachian. He was the former minister.
Works at houses, yeah.
And as I said, just took over. What is the basis for that statement? Has he conducted any accessibility studies to know what the issues are? And the fact that he limited it to Accra tells you that I've not read the story. Actually, I mean, I've not read the details to know the context within which he mentioned this. But in actual fact, if you're a minister in charge of housing, and then the other responsibilities that is I repose on you as a minister, you go beyond Accra. But probably he wants to say that because the Accra issue has to do with a perennial, disaster. He will work towards any. But in this short period, what has he done?
Daily guide.
Issue of flooding goes beyond just making statements. But you see, it comes back to what I wanted. Kwame, when it comes to issues of leadership, I will never blame anybody apart from leaders. Kwame, organization, Pan-African TV. I won't blame your cameraman if he doesn't come to work on time. But I will blame the one in charge of it. I will never blame the security man if he doesn't come to work on time. Because there's a CEO who the board of this company has entrusted this company to. So we expect that you are to do the implementation and everything. Now, if there's corruption in this country, the minister vis-a-vis the technocrats, why should I blame the technocrats? When the minister is the one who gives policy directives and then ensures, and Doc mentioned something here, the supervisory role as a supervisor, it just goes beyond being a minister. You ensure that the policy directives I've given are complied and then they adhere to the latter. So when we start talking about the people are not showing commitment, I laugh over it, because as a leader, you take the painful pill to ensure that the right things are done. But still coming, I have tasted leadership. I don't think for too long, but what I've observed is that, you see, the average Ghanaian want to look nice to everyone. He doesn't want people to say that he's a bad person. Yeah. So, knowing very well that what this man is doing is wrong, he will rather opt for the soft option. That when I do this, they'll say I'm bad. So let me manage it a little bit so that we go with the problem. Managing the problem, but not solving the problem. That is our problem in this country. Now, let me tell the minister responsible for the sector, Works and Housing, that you see, what he's talking about, the implementation trickles beyond his ministry.
I agree.
We are talking about municipal assemblies. We have officers down there who are to ensure that where this building is being sited is on waterway. They are to ensure that, you see, our sanitation issues are addressed. So at the ministry, you are giving policy directives and you ensure they do it. What has it done? In this, I want to see this. I treat it as a promise. Yeah, it's the normal promise. Right. But we can only assess his motives after a year or two. Clearly. To see whether indeed what he said has been done. Now you can't fault him, but you see, there are some promises you don't make. Okay, you just have to take your time and look at it, because it's a very huge gap. They are talking about an issue that is perennial, and every year it happens.
It happens, yeah.
So it goes beyond just making promises. And if he's listening to us, or if some of his people are listening to us, then please, he must start from where the problems are. He must conduct some feasibility studies to know what the issues are. We heard, the immediate outgone minister, that he's going to make what we call NEMA into what?
A condominium.
Thank you. Then I asked, you see, there are legal related issues. You have people who have private properties. How are you going to make it? Because if I have my house and you want to build skyscrapers, how will you convince me to build skyscrapers? Where are you giving me in the short term? When people make some of these promises, they become laughable. And when you say, people think that you don't like them. But you see, it is time. The problem of the politician were created by the politicians.
Absolutely, I like that.
It wasn't created by anyone, because they have presented themselves in a way that people will treat them as such. The Honorable lamented a bit on the fact that people expect you, and it has become a norm. The average Ghanaian expect that you give them money before they vote for you.
Yes.
Okay, who created it? The average Ghanaian believes that it's the MP who brings development to the area. I don't think the MCs went to tell them that. But the MPs, when they are campaigning, will tell them that when I come, this road will be constructed. Knowing very well that he does not construct roads. He can't influence it. Are you okay? So they will judge you by your words.
Absolutely.
And over time, the average electorate knows that is the MP. That's the message. But myself and you, we are fortunate to know that MPs do not construct roads. Absolutely. Even if they want to do, they have to do it through the municipal assemblies. Okay? Unless maybe you want to do it yourself. Even that, you have to go through them because they have to even give you the permit to construct. If you have gone for investors to come and construct roads in your community constituency, you have to go to them to get the right channel. Contracts. Thank you. to come and even construct the roads. So you see, right, we've gotten to a stage that leadership in this country, we need to know our responsibilities and obligations. It's not just about presenting yourself to be liked by the people. However, if you always want to appoint politicians to positions, this is what will happen. Because politicians always want the masses to follow them. So at any given point, they will do what the masses want. That is why we have to depoliticize the real agent of development in our localities, like the DCs and MCs. Let's look out for very competent people to manage it. And as also, if he will support the president to appoint MCs and DCs free from partisan influence, but very objective people who are competent to do the work, he can achieve whatever he wants.
Thank you very, very much. Yeah. Let me come to you, Dr. Marzuk.
Right. I love the minister so much. He's a gentleman. My brother, Dr. Kwaku describes the minister's assertion as a promise. I differ. Yes, I rather want to say that it is the continuation of his campaign message. Unfortunately, we are no longer in the campaign era. We are now in post-election era. So the minister should first of all understand responsible diction, appropriate diction at the appropriate time. This is not the time of promises. This is not the time of campaign messages. This is the time for action. I look at the issue and I can figure out that it is about 3 areas. It is political. I'm referring to the flooding. It is political. It is technical. It is attitudinal. And if you consider all these dimensions, politics, attitude, technicalities, then you come into a conclusion that it is an all-inclusive. It is a collective responsibility. And it is not only the government that should be blamed. It's not only the sector ministry that should be blamed. It's not only the sector minister that should be blamed. It is not only the populace that should be blamed. It is a matter of blaming all of us, the government, the sector ministry, the sector minister, the people themselves, because it is attitudinal. It is clear that flooding is a matter of public policy, and that makes it political. That is why government must be involved. That's why government must lead the fight, because it is a public policy that will create the foundation for the solution. Then when the public policy is formulated by the government, definitely it needs the support of the civil society. It needs the support of the population, the public, to succeed. And that becomes attitudinal. Then, between the attitude and politics, we have an expert who is supposed to use his or her technical expertise to advise, and even to work. You advise and work. Unfortunately, that same person is either in criminal collusion with someone to create a problem, or in criminal solution with someone to prevent solution to the problem. Look, from the days of Adam, if Ghana existed, up to date, flooding, government cannot come out with policies. civil engineers cannot design well? What is the use of the survey department? What is the use of land department? Building on waterways. And we should also understand that those problems arise from urbanization. The more a place is urbanized, the more it is exposed to such problems. You made a point that at first it was only a matter of Accra. But today, it is almost everywhere, because everywhere is being urbanized. So, government should first of all formulate policies, if those policies do not exist. The policies should be left in the hands of technocrats. These technocrats should be sincere enough to allow their technical expertise to rule them. They should resist any temptation from any quarters to water down their technical expertise and to reduce them to criminal collaborators to prevent solution to the problem. Then the Ghanaian must be ready to ensure attitudinal change. Let's all obey building regulations. Let's all obey bylaws on sanitation. Let's all obey bylaws on environmental protection. Let us all agree to work together. And inshallah, we shall find a solution to this problem.
Thank you very much. This was a good morning to KOD. I'm not motivated at all with your discussions today. Do you consider the phenomenon that public office holders cannot be held responsible and accountable to taxpayers? People like Dr. Domilevo, who would go beyond the ordinary to unravel corrupt dealings, are made to suffer and humiliated. Kwame, let's promise our discussions more more on prayers, since we rather believe that we are more religious people and God is ready to solve our problems. George sends this one in from Medina. George, good morning to you, wherever you are. Walano in Akwatia says we should entertain these Rastafarians? We should entertain these Rastafarians in our schools, such as Achimota. No, we haven't discussed that, and I'm surprised that he's sending me this message this morning. Well, it is a topical issue, but there are other topical issues that we can also speak to. Pre-prepared. So they just send them in. Let me wait for my WhatsApp app to download the messages and I'll read them. But Dr. Rashid Pepo, let me hear from you on this subject matter, please, on the issue of the flats.
Well, it's been a perennial issue, meaning that every year we talk about it and nobody's doing enough to solve the problem. We all make efforts, but in the end, we come to the same conclusion. We thought that when the flood was deadly at Circle, we thought by doing what we did in Circle, it would have solved the problem, and still is there. Not necessarily at Circle, but it's everywhere else. We thought that it was important for us to finish it when we dealt with the Alaju roads and reconstructed the road and did what we did, and it's still there. So floods are natural occurrences, but our ability to control it are human efforts. And I think that is a human effort that is failing. Our inability to respond to the challenge of perennial yearly flooding is the challenge we are facing. And it's we who are to be blamed, because you cannot stop the sun from shining. You can't stop the rain from coming. So you can't stop water from lying in a place or passing through a place that it had been passing through since Adam. Now you've come to build your house there. You should find a way of allowing it to pass, because it will still always pass there. So where we fail to do what is required for nature's occurrence, then we become part of nature's hazards. It will definitely happen. And you can be carried just like any other rubbish, because we are all seen to be additions to the things that were there long before this. Remember, Accra was not what it is today.
Absolutely.
That this house was not built where it is today. That during independence there was no such a building here. You know, that several years on, some of the roads that are constructed were not constructed, and there were streets that were used by waterways passing on to the main the sea. And so when you begin to change the order of things, you'll have to do so with a better option for the existing structure. And where you cannot do so, then you have a problem. So I am excited about this gentleman taking on this huge responsibility, which had been occurring in Ghana since 00. I mean, when we didn't know until we became Ghana in 1957, and has still been occurring. Now that he's taking the responsibility of doing it, I'm happy, because I want to see such a responsibility being carried out by somebody.
Right.
Where he fails, we will hold him to it, because he has made a pronouncement in a ministry he's not even yet used to. Because this is the first time, like Doctor has observed, he's going there for the first time. He's yet to understand the systems and how the people operate, and he's making such a huge pronouncement. I hope that he's able to carry it out. Other than that, the Ghanaian public will hold him to it, and he will be called upon to answer, because you can't deceive the public just the same way as you deceive a friend. We all are paying money to you, and we are taking care of you. We are making sure your life is better when you become a minister. So we expect that when you make pronouncements about issues that confront our lives, they must be true and they must reflect the reality. Otherwise, there's a problem.
Thank you, Dr. Rashid Popo. Good morning to you, Samir, whoever you are. I know that you are on the road now together with your with your colleague. I know you have to leave, but what is happening in your party? Mion constituency chairman has been suspended. Atubiga has been suspended. Alote Jacobs has been sacked. Is your party okay? Are you in good health?
Yeah, so when some issues were there or are there that cripple the party from moving on to achieve the best, are the ones still giving the party a problem. The best way to attain the ultimate is to make sure you clear the way. So I'm sure they are clearing the way so that we can get to the ultimate.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Ashipo. Thank you, Dr. Kokumato. Thank you, Dr.
You would have wished to comment on this.
I'll see you guys. I'll see you guys tomorrow. My time is up. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Do have a nice day. Don't forget that the News Review segment was proudly and ably supported by Nestle Ghana Limited. Let's watch this. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.